Same thing.
You can try it. I have a feeling I know how it's going to end.
Right.
Yeah. No, definitely. I'm better off yelling at the dogs. Definitely better off yelling at the dogs. All right, we're back here with our roaring reactions. A day late again. We find that after ugly wins or bad losses, the content is much better if we wait a day. And listen, ugly wins still win. And here we are again with another ugly win. So, welcome back with the Running Through the Jungle crew to our roaring reactions and coaches Cliff Notes. I'm your host, Brandon Harriet, with your host, Tim Lyon, and your host, Justin Lacey. What's going on, gentlemen?
What it do? What it do?
Yeah, man. I'm coming off of actually a pretty, great weekend in Cincinnati. So for a lot of people that's not from Cincinnati or don't know about much of our city, but are Bengals fans, and so we have this festivities that happens in the metropolitan downtown area. It's called Blink, and it's basically an encapsulating light show that happens throughout the city. Like a lot of different skyscrapers are covered in so many different creative lightings, and it only happens once every 2 years. This past weekend was Blink, and it was so much fun to be a part of and to see the stuff. And they had a drone show. They had, and it expanded across the river over to Covington, Kentucky too. So yes, those people that like to joke about Cincinnati's in Kentucky, so what? It's not. First of all, it expands to include greater Northern Kentucky as part of the greater Cincinnati tri-state. And honestly, it's one of the things that a lot of people from out of town come into our city and visit. So that happened this weekend. And the UC Bearcats began their exhibition in basketball against Ohio State. And boy, they looked dominant. So we're excited for UC basketball because, the prognostications that UC basketball is going to projectedly be one of those teams to compete for a Final Four appearance in this March Madness tournament as we begin that. And then, the Reds hired Terry Francona as the general manager, who has a lot of success. And the Bengals won, and the UC football team won. So there's a lot of good stuff that's happened. We had a great weekend overall in the city, I should say.
Not too shabby. Unfortunately, they had a great weekend here in Pittsburgh as well.
Yeah. But you know what, bro? I'm not going to – I got to be honest. Two things about Pittsburgh. Number one, Russell Wilson made all of his haters eat crow last night. It seemed like he was on a mission to just basically just tell all those doubters that he still got it. And you know what? For a little bit, it looked like he was still struggling a little bit. But you know what? Hey, he got that offense to cook a bit, man. Like, we'll see how it progresses. I got to see a few more games and sample sizes. But the other number two thing I wanted to share about Pittsburgh, man, and I shared all of these on Twitter. I got to be honest, man. If there's one team that I trust to beat the Baltimore Ravens, this version of Baltimore, it's honestly Pittsburgh, man. Their defense can stifle anybody. And they do not fear Lamar Jackson like a lot of other teams do. And I feel like that while we believe we have the best quarterback to, go blow for blow with Lamar, Pittsburgh is the one that can beat him, like, consistently. So I got to tip my cap to what they did last night against Aaron Rodgers and company.
Yeah.
Fear. It's an interesting terminology.
I mean, they don't fear Lamar. They respect him, but they don't fear him. If that makes sense.
I was just thinking about it in terminology of our team and how we're getting ready for other defenses and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I would say fear, but I sometimes think that our coaching staff gives the other team a little too much respect.
That's what I mean by that. That's exactly what I mean by I feel like that they put too much emphasis and onus on Lamar Jackson, even though we know he's an incredibly talented guy. But it's one of those things where it's like you got to stop making his picture bigger than what he actually is. And if you get your mind out of that frame and look at the overall big picture of the game, you'll be fine. And you got to trust and believe in your players. That's what. But you said it right.
Yeah. Well, I think it's this. They have a clear identity of who they are as a football team, and they do their best to force the other team to play their game, not vice versa. Right. I think a lot of it, and Tim, you've spoke to me about this. A lot of times it's like you give too much respect to the Browns defense instead of trying to impose your will on them. I saw a lot of that this game, didn't you?
Yeah, it just didn't make sense to me this weekend of why we were so afraid to do X, Y, and Z. And I understand that, the Cleveland Browns, and I know Justin, his biggest concern was Myles Garrett. And don't get me wrong, I respect Myles Garrett as a player. But when it comes to the Cleveland Browns, we weren't sure what we were going to get. But that defense played great ball. I think our offense did not play to their advantages, So, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, hey, before we get into some negative stuff, let's talk about what went well with this game. Let's talk about what went well against the Cleveland Browns. And, Justin, I'll let you start it off. What did you think went well against this team yesterday?
Well, first and foremost, they exercised the demon of not winning in Cleveland since 2017, which is insane that was even a stat to begin with. You've gone winless in Cleveland, a place where really anybody can win that. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're playing in Cleveland late in December when the weather and the conditions are bad and rainy, wet, slippery, cold, well, all that stuff, like AFC North style weather. If you're playing in Cleveland, sure. Okay, I can understand it can be a tough-ish place to play.
I even gave them last year. I gave them a free pass at the beginning of the year. They played, it was a monsoon, and we had a one-legged Joe Burrow.
Absolutely, and I understood that. But to be perfectly honest, man, even with all the deficiencies that our Bengals team has had over the years, losing in Cleveland was flat out unacceptable. Pittsburgh ain't doing that. Baltimore ain't doing that. And you've done it so many times, and it's glad to finally exercise that demon. Get that monkey off your back and show these people, bro, we tired of, again, as I say about the Ravens, we're tired of making this Browns team bigger than what they were. They were a bad team coming in at 1-5. Everybody in their fan base just gave up on them. And it seemed like after the T. Higgins touchdown, they were just exiting the stands. And I did think that the defense performed admirably well. And I feel like that they had take another step and they turned the corner and took another step with, getting a few turnovers and stuff. And I do include turnovers on down too as turnovers. But yeah, man, it was great to get the win. I'm never going to apologize, even if it's an ugly win. It's still a win. It's a win in a division. You also exercise that division, not really winning a true division game. And you can say since week 18 of last year, but again, that was against a Browns team that rested everybody and they backups and starters, backups, everybody. You saw third and fourth stringers out there going against the Bengals. I don't really count that, even though that is a legitimate game, a regular season game that you did win. But we know what real AFC North games look like. And it's finally nice to get in the win column with one of those and stop this snide of losing these games. So that's what I would say. That's what went well overall.
All right, Tim, what was your take on this game yesterday? What went well for the Bengals against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland, dropping the Cleveland Browns to 1-6 and bringing the Bengals up to 3-4?
We did exactly what I said that we should do, is keep pressure on Deshaun Watson, or in this case, the quarterbacks. We presented that pressure on their quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson was sacked twice. I think DTR was sacked once, and Winston was sacked once as well. So we got 4 sacks. So we kept that pressure on the quarterbacks. We kept them from rolling out and, whatever. I know Winston scored on a garbage time touchdown, but whatever, it is what it is. But one thing I want to say is this: I know I've been giving Cam Taylor-Britt crap for the last couple of weeks because of his play. But yesterday, I wasn't watching him getting burnt and toasted and all that stuff. Yeah, it might have been because he was playing against Judy or, whoever else, Tillman or whoever else their wide receivers are. I can't remember. I don't know, to be honest with you.
Jerry Judy didn't even get a target until the very end of the game.
And he dropped it. He dropped it. So,
crazy.
That's what went well for me. Cam Taylor-Britt, he was out there. He wasn't getting toasted. Like I said, the defensive line played well. And I think that was the best thing. Even though they scored that garbage time touchdown in the end, whatever. But the defense is looking better now. All we need is the offense to be on the same page.
Yeah, prevent defense, man.
Yeah,
ugly. That's what gave up that touchdown. But I'll also, twofold here. I'll give it up to the defense. The defensive line, we were very critical of early on when they were having injury problems and what was this going to look like when it came back, because we didn't know what was look like going into the season. 16 rushes by the running backs yesterday for the Cleveland Browns, 11 from Nick Chubb, and they averaged just over 2 yards a carry. DTR on scrambles late in the game was a majority of their rushing yards. So, kudos. I think BJ Hill, Rankins, Miles Murphy playing better. Chris Jenkins still unable with that broken thumb, wearing that cast. Still unable to really get off of blocks and make tackles. He's basically in there to move people. But those guys are playing much better than, honestly, not even just much better than they were earlier in the year, but much better than I anticipated them. And I really thought the Browns, especially you start looking at what they did early in the game, they wanted to run the ball. Mm-hmm. They just realized it was an act of futility. So that's a kudos. Now, I'm also going to give a kudos here. And I feel like this is needed for me to give some flowers here. I like the fact that our coaching staff committed to the run when it wasn't working. Still made sure we got at least 15 handoffs to one running back, which is kind of my base setting. Whether it's working or not, sooner or later, you're going to pop that one that helps in that scoring drive, and that's what happened. And I think it also stops them from just pinning their ears back and rushing upfield constantly over and over and over again. It does help a little bit with the play fakes and those things. I say that because we're going to also talk about some improvements needed, and I might not be so forthcoming with these coaches. So I want to give the credit where I can find it. Anything else that you want to talk about as far as going well before we move on to the next subject?
Yeah, no, man. The receivers, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I mean, those are the only two receivers I'm going to just highlight that what went well. Again, they finally exercised the demon of not letting the corners beat them. I know that Denzel Ward, he's a guy that I absolutely respect, ton of respect for. But you guys, they've let over the last few years, they've let guys like Greg Newsome and now Martin Emerson just kind of bully them along with Denzel Ward. And that's because, the Browns last year, more specifically, they had a great defense, but they've also had great players just overall on this defense. Obviously we talk about Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, but they got Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah. Their safety tandem back there with Juan Thorhill and Grant Delpit. Grant Delpit played with them, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase at LSU, so he does know them from that time. But it just felt like that every time the Bengals receiving corps went against this cornerback room, this DB room, it always feels like that they were just beneath them in terms of matchup-wise. It was just great to see Jamar Chase be big stepper, get that back shoulder fade in the corner of the end zone over Greg Newsome, and then does the big stepper Allen Iverson over him. That was awesome. And then T. Higgins, he also gets in the end zone too. And it right then and there just felt like that, okay, they are really about to exercise this demon finally, the receivers. So I'm highlighting the receivers in that context.
All right, Tim, anything for you?
No, I think we covered it all. I think Justin, covered the wide receivers. That's about the only thing that I had too. So, no, I'm good.
Yeah, we got to give a little shout out to Charlie Jones for his return.
Oh yeah, for
touchdown return. That was always nice. So let's get into the negative side of things here and talk about what improvements are needed going forward. There are quite a few of them. We'll get into Coach's Cliff Notes here in a few, but they did actually speak about some things in the interview process with Coach Zach Taylor and with Joe Burrow. They weren't real critical. But they did acknowledge that they're not playing their best ball. Tim, what's the first thing comes to your mind when you talk about improvements needed going forward?
So you guys all know I'm the run the damn ball guy. I love when you run the ball, but you need to improve and stop running that stupid sweep. That sweep was getting crushed every time they ran it, I think all year long. It's either a negative 2-yard gain or a no yard gain. Stop running that. 2, our interior offensive line needs to improve. Volson, he needs to learn how to block better because he's the reason why Chase Brown didn't get that 30-yard, run that he had. It got called back because of holding. Last week, he got called for holding. Our interior line needs to do better, and that includes Kappa and Karras as well. When we run into these guys that we're playing against, like Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, TJ Watt, they're going to be coming at different directions. They're going to double rush, and we're only going to be able to stop one guy because nobody knows what's going on. We need to improve this interior. Oh my goodness, I can't speak. Interior offensive line is what I want to say, but also improve the schemes on the run game. Like I said, the sweep needs to go bye-bye. Bye-bye. Assalamu alaikum. Bye-bye.
Well, when you text me about the sweep yesterday, I said it doesn't make any sense with what they've drafted, what they've signed free agent wise, and what they're trying to do on that offensive sweep. If you're going to run that sweep, you quit drafting guys that are 6'8", 370 pounds.
Right. That's like drafting you or me
that are wide. Listen, that wide zone
run and go get it.
Yeah, that wide zone run is for when you are a little bit undersized, but faster. You got a Jason Kelsey type guy, agile, can get around the outside. We're drafting these big mammoth beasts and then ask them to be a ballerina. It's just bizarre to me.
Well, and then with Kappa and Karras, those guys are getting a little bit weathered, a little bit seasoned in age. They're not as fast as they used to be when they were, when one of them was at the Patriots, and the other one wasn't he with the other one, the Bucks? Kappa was.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not as young as they used to be. So to pull your center or your guard and try to get those sweeps done, it takes a lot longer time. And I know Chase Brown is fast, he's quick, but if there's nobody over there to block, that play is dead 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
Absolutely. Justin, what's the first improvements you see needed for the Bengals going forward?
Okay, we're going to go into the offense as a whole for me because I'm to the point now that my magnifying glass is squarely on the offense. After everybody, and me included, was talking so high about how we were starting the season, Joe Burrow was playing like at an MVP level. We were just gouging teams for yards, even though we've had losses, that uncharacteristic losses at that. But these last 2 weeks, I've turned the corner the opposite way on this team. They are still very inconsistent. Now, you guys have mentioned a lot of different factors when it comes to them rushing the ball. Personally, I don't have much of a big of a deal with the jet sweep like a lot of people do. It's when they do the halfback toss is when I have a problem, because it seems like that they do it so late, and then by the time the ball reaches to the running back, even if it is a Chase Brown guy who has the explosive capability to break those holes, the block is just not sustained enough for him, and it's just almost like it's always an automatic tackle for loss. When you watch teams across the league, you clearly can see everybody else is doing those exact same plays and finding success. Remember a game against Baltimore when they closed it out against us? Lamar threw a halfback toss to Derrick Henry for that big yard. He didn't just, drop back and handed it to him. He threw a halfback toss, and then boom, there you go. I need to see more creativity in the ways of running the ball, and where it's not just the standard, run out of shotgun or run out of I formation. Run the ball better. The first touchdown drive that when Chase caught it with the back shoulder into the left side of the end zone, that was because they ran the ball better. A handoff to Chase Brown to break open a 20-something yard run. That's what got it started. I need the Bengals to do better. They were not running the ball at all really in the first half. It was so frustrating because the recipe to lose against this Myles Garrett and that Browns defense is throwing the ball all over the yard and thinking that you can outthrow any defensive coverage when it's not there. Stop being selfish. Run it better. That's what I wanted to see, and they made the adjustments in the second half. I was appreciative of that. But number two, and this is really important, this offense does not have a killer instinct. They do not have the ability to throw the dagger in the hearts of their victims when they're wounded. There were twice during the second half that the Bengals defense gave them golden opportunities to just put the final nail in the coffin right then and there. It never should have came to the Browns kicking an onside kick. Okay, let's just get that out the way there, because the whole time, even though it's a low probability of them recovering it, the whole time you're thinking, knowing us, is they're going to recover it, and then boom, we just allowed this game to slip away. I understand they needed a miracle, but it never should have gotten that when Geno Stone got to that interception, ran it back to the Browns' 30-yard line. Run, just no creative in that. No, not even no yards. Almost got tackled for loss, and then missed a 50-yard field goal. You got to be better than that. You got to have the ability to just throw the knife in their hearts, go up another score, 28-6. You already know it's game over from there. And then I'm sorry, but I got to call him out because now it's a problem. I get it. He's had a mulligan with the holder in the Baltimore game. We put that problem on Ryan Rekow when it came to hold. But Evan McPherson, going back since last season, he has been 10 of 17 from beyond the arc of 50 yards or behind or greater in that distance. He hasn't been automatic money Mac like we've known him to be. And now we're paying him almost $6 million a year, and you're missing clutch kicks. This is getting frustrating. It's getting frustrating watching this offense. They're better than this. And there's going to be next week when we go against the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm sorry, but I don't want to hear the excuses of, well, they have a good defensive front. Okay, I just watched that same Eagles team put up 28 points on the Giants team that you played the week before, and that's a division opponent for them, and yet they put up 28 and stopped them from even doing anything. They feel like they can do whatever they want to. So at some point, we got to ask ourselves, we got to tell ourselves, are we going to stop making these excuses of crediting the other team's defense like we did? Last week, we did that with the Giants front, but that's the same Giants front that had Dexter Lawrence, freaking Brian Burns, and I think that Kayvon Thibodeau was back, by the way. I'm not sure. People can quote me on that. But it's the bottom line is that the Browns, we got to stop. I feel like that Zach Taylor and his coaching staff is giving way too much credit to these opponents instead of saying, like, look, man, we respect our opponents, but we know darn right that we're a better team when we are playing our best football. And you got to go out there and prove it that you're the best team. He doesn't have that killer instinct as a coaching staff, and it reflects on the team because Joe Burrow hasn't had that signature moment during this season to where he can he can throw the deliver and kill shot in the game.
It's trying to be too cerebral, in my opinion. Sometimes you don't have to always outsmart someone. It's that old adage of Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
Sure, yep. It's you're trying to be too analytical and just ruins his feel for the game. Sometimes he can have good feel for the game, but sometimes, man, you got to throw the analytics out the window and go play bully ball, man. And that's what was frustrating that I wasn't seeing.
Whatever your bully ball is, if your bully ball is feeding Jamar Chase 5 straight passes, then do that if they can't stop it, and you know that. It's whatever that is. To the point there where I said you gotta run the things that fit your offense or get different people in where you have it. The point there is in that Ravens comment you made where they run that running back toss sweep. 4 out of their 5 offensive linemen are 315 pounds or less. That's who you run that with. You don't run it when you got two guys weigh 360 and 380.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like those guys aren't getting anywhere.
And let me just be perfectly honest here. Because like I said, I gotta come at the offense a bit here. Because we've been going off of the assumption that the Bengals are an unquestioned top 5 offense. Right now, that's not the case to me.
I think they're top 5 talent.
They have top 5 talent. I agree.
Yeah.
I blame it on coaching.
5 teams who are better offensively than the Bengals. 2 of them are playing tonight right now on Monday Night Football. That is the Ravens and the Buccaneers. I can give you the Detroit Lions, the Houston Texans, and the Green Bay Packers.
Ooh,
right now,
Texas
I will take those 5 offenses over the Bengals offenses. Right now, I will take those 5 quarterbacks and how they are currently playing right now over the Cincinnati Bengals quarterback right now. And I love Joe Burrow, but he has been kind of slipping lately. And even when he plays his best games, it's still not enough. It's still something that is leaving to be desired in these performances, man. And at some point you got to say, man, Joe, you got to evolve, man. We need you to be Super Joe. Like we know you can. And I'm sure he's aware that they're happy to get on the plane and win the game. And they're not going to apologize for winning the game, even if it's ugly. And I don't want them to. But they got to understand, like, if they were to go into – we got the White Bengal game coming up. If they lose that game and if they throw a lackluster performance and the Eagles put out 30 points and we only put out like 15, what's the excuse going to be? Oh, well, you know, they just had a better – but man, that's where you lose me.
So, listen, a couple weeks ago, going into that Ravens week, actually, there was a comment Joe made that made me concerned immediately. When he said he knows he had to play perfect in order to win. So he's trying to play perfect and not make mistakes. Right. I don't need Joe Burrow to have 7 or 8 touchdowns per interception. That means he's not taking enough chances to maximize his potential and his abilities. I need him to be 4-1 because he needs to throw some balls into some tight windows, and we need to live with those picks every once in a while.
For sure.
So I agree with you there. Joe Burrow, and we'll kind of get into a little bit of the coach's cliff notes here. Joe Burrow said in that you referenced the 3 downs where they ran the ball 3 straight times and then missed a 50-plus yard field goal. Joe Burrow said he killed at the line of scrimmage because he saw a look of or a 2 deep safety and only 5 in the box, and he killed it, and they moved it at the end and ended up bringing more into the box, and they ran the ball and didn't get it. I think they lost a yard, actually, and that's the reason why they ended up with a long field goal that they missed. But it led to me and listening to Bengals fans and some of these guys break down stuff where the Browns are normally a very man-to-man oriented defense.
But they played zone.
They played all but 15%. They played 2 deep, Tampa 2, and they were dropping people back.
Right.
What the problem I have is this: the adjustment doesn't get made fast enough. You see, the adjustment doesn't get made fast enough. I know. Listen, I know I'm the only Michigan fan on here, and I'm probably one of only 10 Michigan fans on the planet that are Bengals fans. But if you love football, I highly suggest, if you haven't seen it, Bussin' with the Boys, Connor Stallions goes on that show and talks about who's the cat and who's the mouse.
Yeah, for sure.
It wasn't necessarily about always stealing the signs from the other team. It's about being the cat or the mouse, meaning that you're in the right play call or personnel versus what you're showing or what the defense is showing. So if you don't make that adjustment, if you see that they're making it, you got to do something to make that adjustment so that you become the cat and not the mouse. To me, real quick, why don't we go up tempo? Dude. If we see them dropping and doing all this crap, you know what? Let Joe Burrow. Joe, you got this series. Go call the plays. Let's go up tempo. Let's score. Yeah. Go.
And so I'm so happy that you brought that up, because the personnel aspect of thing is the one that really grinds my gears when it comes to this coaching staff. This was the perfect opportunity, and we talked about this last week when we talked about matchup opportunities. You could have inserted Jermaine Burton into the lineup at the wide receiver position, so that way you can open up some different matchup options and use his talent on the field. Whether if it's just him running a straight go ball or something once in a while, it takes away the option for the defenses to go sit in zone coverage. They can just now have to account for a guy streaking down the field. He's fast enough and he can do it. We've seen him do it, but yet they don't even put him on the field like that, and he doesn't even get a catch. That's what's also frustrating. We all like to joke about on Twitter or on the internet about Patrick Mahomes. Now he's thrown 8 interceptions now. His stats are just not good. But yeah, he's in the MVP caliber race.
Him and Jordan Love.
Say it again.
Him and Jordan Love.
But here's the difference with Jordan Love.
Leading the league in interceptions.
That's true.
Look at their teams, undefeated and one loss.
But Jordan Love is also throwing a ton of touchdown passes along with it. Yeah. He takes the chances when Jordan Love threw 3 picks yesterday's game against the Texans. They also won. And they won because of him throwing the ball a lot, taking chances with matchups. And that tight window throw to Tucker Kraft. But I'm getting sidetracked with him and going with Patrick Mahomes. But the joke is everybody's making fun of his numbers, but yet I just saw them once again win a game that they had no business winning against the 49ers on the road, kind of convincingly too. And guess what? That's without Isaiah Pacheco. That's without Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce obviously being a shell of himself. And yet they're still finding creative ways to make it happen and their personnel happen. And yet we can't even get Mike Gesicki on the field. The lack of usage of tight ends is also mind-boggling to me. Why did you sign Mike Gesicki then if you're not even going to use him like that? I digress my point.
Which they were earlier in the season.
Right.
They were. And that's what's like, okay, man, what is really going on with this offense, man? Because I was told that we got the potential to be the greatest offense, like the greatest show on turf and whatnot. And it looked like that in a couple of these losses. But yeah, now you stacked a couple of wins. It's cool. Yes, clap your hands. You got a couple of wins, but they're not inspiring wins to me. If you would have put your foot down their neck and went up like 35-6 or whatnot, then that's an inspiring performance. That's a statement-dominated performance. They have yet to do that. They have yet to show that so far this year. And I'm fearful that by the time you even get to that, it's going to be too late.
Yeah, I made the comment to Tim watching the game. Like, what does this team do when there's blood in the water? You got the Boo Birds out in Cleveland at home. You're up 7-0. They're punting the ball off to you. Like, we need to go down to the field and step on someone's throat.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Not even close.
Nope. Bengals get out of the water.
Yep. 100%. All right.
They're not sharks, bro. They're people. Like, as soon as they see some blood or some urine in the water, they out.
Out.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors. While we do so, please like, subscribe, rate, and review. Share us. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Tell a friend to share us. That 5-star rating, by the way, goes a long way if you're on Spotify, Apple, Google Pie, wherever you get. You need 5 stars real quick, and we'll be right back after these messages. All right, welcome back to the Roaring Reactions and Coach's Cliff Notes. Probably should go ahead and get these boring Coach's Cliff Notes out of the way. I talked about Joe Burrow checking out of that. He also talked about the offensive stalling, and he did the whole coach speak. There were games we had over 300 yards and lost. I'd rather have the win. But something he said, he did complimentary football too. I forgot that one. Complimentary football. But something he did say towards the end of it, and the way he said it and what he said, he said, we're not a great team yet. We need to get better. I said, okay. And it was the way he said it, like he had a little gumption. So I think in order for us to do that, like I said, I think we got to stop trying to be perfect. Just be Joe.
Yeah.
That's what we need. Zach said when asked about throwing the ball to a majority of the time in the second half to Chase and T. Higgins, he asked the reporter, "Are you good with that? Are you okay with that?" To which everybody laughed and said, "Yeah." So fair enough. Like, I'd get spreading the ball around, but I can see why you get a little pass happy to those guys. That was really the only coach speak, the cliff notes that I would bring to the table. Did you guys hear anything that tickled your fancy you'd like to share with the audience?
I had to turn it off because the audio was so bad that I had was trying to watch it, and it was early in the morning time, and everybody's still in bed, and I was like, okay, I can't watch this. I can't hear it.
Yeah, Joe Burrows especially was
awful.
Yeah, I had a speaker up as loud as I could and had it against my head.
Yeah, for me, I didn't really listen to the full press conferences after the game. I did see the footnotes regarding what the comments were stated, like you said about Joe Burrow. Hey, we're not there yet, but basically saying that, look, we got to stay level-headed. We haven't arrived or anything like that.
Yep.
Look, I'm glad that he's putting perspective in the reality here, and then basically sending a message to the team that, look, man, we ain't done nothing. All we did was barely sneak by a couple of bad teams that we should have dominated, and we didn't. But bottom line is, I'm going to be looking forward more to the Wednesday presser, because somebody got to start now unraveling the questions to Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow regarding the offense. Like, look, guys, I get it. You guys were on a heater and doing some of these L's that you've taken, but you've taken your foot off the gas at an uncharacteristic time when the defense now is playing up to the standard. What are we going to do to correct that so that way we can start playing complementary football and actually start getting some convincing wins? I'm looking forward to that, because now that's the microscope for me.
I think it's a little bit taking off the gas, but I think it's a lot of teams are making adjustments to us, and we're not making
adjustments right back. That's exactly what it is. And that's a concern, because that's squarely on a coaching staff. It's never been about the Jimmies and Joes with this Bengals team. They've always had players, but it's always about the coaching staff. It feels like that Zach Taylor, he just doesn't have the extra oomph, the extra aura that you see and respect out of AFC North coaches like the Mike Tomlins, like the John Harbaughs of the world. Even going back before those guys, the Bill Cowhers, the Brian Billings. Hell, Kevin Stefanski's in that mode now. Even though he's going through turmoil and crazy hell, that is still a guy that won back-to-back two-time NFL Coach of the Year award winner. So he's not a bad coach. But Zach Taylor, it just feels like that he's such a Joe Burrow merchant and leaning on his capabilities that I feel like he just doesn't challenge him in the offense enough to do better and ascend to new heights. And that's what I think that we're missing. We're missing that avenue to Zach Taylor's game. Strategy and game planning still continues to not be his best trait. It showed again this past Sunday.
Yeah. Stefanski's biggest problem is thinking that Ken Dorsey was going to solve things as an offensive coordinator. He's already proven that's not his shtick.
That was rough.
Yeah, I'll never forget him throwing a temper tantrum in the Bills press box. That was fantastic. All right, well, we'll get off of that. Let's do a quick injury speak. In the upset of the week. Geno Stone does not have a broken tibia? Question mark?
Contusion. Just from what you were saying. Contusion. So
what? Contusion? That man left in an air cast.
Right.
He called his next of kin.
I thought he had a broken leg, man. I thought it was one of those things where they weren't going to show the replay on the game. I was thinking like, man, this is not good. Look, man, I've criticized on this show too, but on social media, we've all criticized Geno Stone for not showing up the way that he should have been showing up as a free agent acquisition. But he's gotten better over the last couple weeks. Now, granted, it is against bad offenses, okay, but he got our turnover. That was the last time a member of the secondary got a turnover since Von Bell's interception against Carolina. That's a fun fact, and it feels like that. He was just finally starting to turn the corner, but is very.
Pratt had an interception against the Giants.
Who did?
Pratt.
He's not a secondary member. He's a linebacker.
Oh, secondary.
Yeah. But I just don't. I just feel like that. First of all, I'm just happy to see that it's not as serious as what we all thought it was. Because boy, that was not. It didn't look good at all. So it seems like that he's going to be week to week, and he might end up playing on Sunday against the Eagles.
Wild. It looked like it hurt. I'll give him that. But
I'm
man,
sure it did.
Man, that was a little bit nutty. To me, listen, I think Jordan Battle deserves to play a little bit more in this defense anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't losing my mind about him. The text I sent out that said no was Orlando Brown Jr.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the one that I was a little bit more worried with. But let me go back to the defense a little bit because it was Von Bell and Geno Stone haven't performed up to high level standards this season so far. But guess what though? If the offense would have not took their foot off the gas and actually went up a few more scores like they should have, the starters would have already probably been on the bench and ready to go for the following week and already been west. They've already probably would have taken their starters out. That happened on the last drive when the Browns got the touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when that injury happened. Had we were already up like 30-6 at that point, I guarantee you that the starters wasn't even playing in that point.
True. Very true. Tim, what's your take on Orlando Brown Jr. and his calf injury?
It's not good to hear that your starting left tackle is dealing with a calf injury, because as we know, calf injuries can turn into Achilles injuries.
Don't put that out. Don't put that out.
I'll just knock on wood that it's not that, but it can lead to other stuff. We'll just put it that way.
Okay.
And then now we have Cody Ford going in at left tackle next to Volson. It's not a good pairing. That's like putting Brandon and I out there on all the offensive line, tell us to block. I don't think it's a good idea. But
I'm a
hopefully,
code, brother.
Yeah, hopefully, it's not as severe as we hope it's not severe. I'm going to guess it's going to be week to week and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, it started as a right knee sprain. I've heard calf injury. I've heard that, so I don't know.
It's a leg injury. Let's put it that way.
Right knee sprain might actually.
Look, I feel like that regardless of the situation, the Bengals' offense better find a way to adjust. We've seen injuries happen throughout the rest of the entire league. There are a lot of teams that's lost better players. The 49ers just lost Deebo Samuel, and he's out for the season. They already don't have Christian McCaffrey and company, all these guys. And yet they still got to figure out a way to get these wins and stuff like that too. I already mentioned the Chiefs and the people that they lost. They don't even have a left tackle that they feel comfortable in. So if it is going to be a situation where Orlando Brown misses a couple weeks or maybe a game or so just to kind of heal up the calf, that's fine. You got to figure out a way to adjust, even if it's with Cody Ford, or sign somebody off the street and bring them elevated to the practice squad. This would have been a perfect opportunity to say, like, man, dang it, man, I wish we would never have lost Trent Brown, because he would have been a perfect swing tackle in that spot, even though we were done with him at the right tackle experiment. But I digress. I mean, it feels like that it could have been more serious than it led on to be. I'm not saying that the calf injury is not as bad, but it ain't like MCL sprain or ACL sprain, whatever, that's going to put him on IR for 4 weeks and whatnot. We're going to be out for 4 games. This probably might be a situation where he doesn't play this upcoming week, but we'll probably be back the following week against the Raiders.
My favorite thing about Cody Ford, not Carmen Jackson. So with that said, we will go to our offensive game balls.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear the offensive game balls. Tim, who are you giving your game ball out to against the Cleveland Brownos?
Can I give it to Charlie Jones? I know it's
give it to whoever you want,
but he's a special teams player.
I'm gonna give it to Charlie. Ball?
You know what? I'm giving the offensive game ball to Charlie Jones, because honestly, 100-yard kickoff return for a tutty by Charlie Jones. I'm going to give it to him.
Only Bengal to gain 100 yards. So
that's a lot of work for one player to do, and it was a if you guys didn't see it, go Google Charlie Jones kickoff return versus the Browns. He did an amazing job. There was some good blocking, but he that's a lot of work. He tiptoed on the sideline and reached out for the touchdown. So my game ball, my offensive game ball, and I know it's not traditional or something normal that we do here, but I'm gonna give it to Charlie.
It wasn't a very traditional game. We'll let it pass.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give it to Charlie Jones, my offensive game ball.
All right, Juddy, offensive game ball.
I really did like the Charlie Jones pick. I'm not going to go with it for mine because I want to be in the share of being different, of course. But I did really like the Charlie Jones pick just because if that did not happen, just imagine if he would have got tackled like at the 30 or something. Do you think that the Bengals would have gone down the field and scored on that first drive? They didn't score. They didn't do absolutely nothing throughout the entire first half, the rest of the way. And so, yes, I do kind of like that. Charlie Jones was the separator that separated the score for the Bengals in that game on offense between the Bengals and the Browns. But my game ball, I'm going to give it to both of these guys. I'm splitting half, giving it to one of each of the receivers. Jamar gets half, and then T. Higgins gets the other half. They both got a touchdown. They both played big boy ball against this Brown secondary. They were not schemed open. They had to figure out their way to kind of run themselves open. And Jamar, that strong catch and run where it looked like it was going to be like maybe a 1 yard gain, and he muscles his way down to a 7 yard gain on one catch and run. That was that was electrifying. And he also got a jet sweep for a first down too. Again, one of those things where it's like that's a way to be creative. Even though it is a jet sweep, a lot of people don't like it. But Jamar is one of the fastest players in the NFL. And when you get him in open space and catch some of these people off guard, he's going to make people miss some tackles. And you saw it. So I just feel like that the Bengals won this game on offense because of the Jimmies and Joes. So that's to me, Jamar and T. Higgins. That's who won them this game on offense. And they are respectively getting my game ball.
Well, if you'd have given a whole game ball to one guy, I might have given it to the other guy. So we're going to have T. Higgins going to have 1.5 game balls. But sorry. Sorry, the other ball's not going to, it's going to flutter a little bit when you pass it. Listen, T. Higgins, 4 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown, over 20 yards of reception, caught the ball in the middle of the field, caught contested catches, caught tough catches, took hard hits. This is 2 weeks in a row I'm giving him my game ball. And I go back to this. I said it before, I'll say it again. Contract dispute on the franchise tag, not one time pouted. When he came back to work, he was all in, and he's putting in the work. He's looks like he's gotten past, knock on wood, the hamstring problem from the first couple of games. He has been a complete and utter beast. I love the mentality and the spunk that this man is playing with. He's obviously made of the right stuff, and I'm very doubtful. I am hopeful, but I'm very doubtful that we will see him in a Bengals uniform after the season.
You got to find a way to get him. Keep him.
Whoever gets that man is getting a hell of a football player and got a lot of dog in him. I really feel, and I've said this before, if there weren't the soft tissue injury things, I think you would have backed the Brinks truck up. But
yeah,
it is what it is.
But you know what? Don't you wish that he would have came down with that contested catch when he was matched up against Denzel Ward? He had it in his hands. Denzel made a nice play. And Andre Yosivas had one that was like it too. It's just I attest that more that Denzel Ward is just a monster, dog. Like he's that shutdown corner that I wish the Bengals had, on our team. But T. Higgins, I thought that he had the perfect size, the wingspan parameter that can go against any of these Browns DBs. And yes, that's why he got half of a game ball splitting half between him and Jamar. And the Bengals, man, look, I understood the Jesse Bates conversation regarding paying him and all that stuff, but it's upsetting because what's going on now with this secondary room. But with T. Higgins, look, man, you need to find a way to pay him because you need him. He makes Jamar Chase better too. That's the thing that nobody wants to admit. He just does.
Yeah, he keeps double teams off of him nonstop. You know what I mean? My whole thing with the contract stuff, and I've been on the record about it quite a bit. I didn't mind when you didn't pay Jesse Bates to pay the other two. I didn't mind when you didn't pay T because you wanted to get the deal done with Jamar first. But for crying out loud, pay somebody.
Pay somebody, man.
Good Lord, get one of them done.
Give Trey a contract too while we're at it. And I don't mean to be a spoiler because I know we're about to go into our defensive game balls next.
Hey, Trey. Defensive game balls. What a great segue.
Yeah.
Tim, why are you giving your defensive? No, I'm kidding. Who are you giving your defensive game ball to?
Well, I gave my defensive game ball on our predictions to Trey Hendrickson because I said he was going to get 2 sacks. Brandon said he's going to get 2.5 sacks. He tried to half up me. But Trey did have a pass deflection. He had 2 sacks. Trey Hendrickson is my defensive game ball. I'm still going to give it to him. I'm going to give it to him. Trey Hendrickson. He played a hell of a game. He did what he needed to do. He went out there and balled out. He played a great game.
That second sack was an absolute gift as well. Justin?
Yeah, I'm going with Trey too. I'm going with Trey too. I know I predicted in our show this past Wednesday that I think that Cam Taylor-Britt was going to have a bounce back performance. And don't get me wrong, he played solid, just like the rest of the secondary and the defense did. But man, it's Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson continues to be a wrecking ball. Again, as what we stated before, when he's on the field with Myles Garrett, they almost like have an identical game over the years with these matchups. And it's about time that he needs to get his just due. And once again, he showed that when he's on the same field with guys like Myles Garrett and TJ Watt, he can have just as much of a good day as those guys, or he can have a better day than those guys. And he had a better day than Myles Garrett. And for much of my concern of what Myles Garrett usually does to this Bengals team, this Bengals offense more specifically, he was a non-factor in this game. And Trey Hendrickson was an absolute factor, albeit it is the Browns offense and they are abysmal. But the Browns, like you said, Brandon, they wanted to run the ball this game. They had Nick Chubb coming back. They wanted to feature him a little bit. But Trey Hendrickson blew up a lot of the passing attack game plan stuff. Even when it felt like Deshaun Watson, before he went down with his injury, before he was getting in the rhythm, Trey Hendrickson was right there. And it was beautiful because on his last sack against Jameis Winston, he rushed up the middle and got it. And that was awesome. He also had a pressure on Deshaun Watson that you thought, like everybody and their mama thought, the ref was going to throw a late flag on him. And I'm so happy it ended up being an intentional grounding call. But that was a pressure that he had up the middle, unblocked. And he was just an absolute beast on the field, man. And just like I said about T. Higgins, you gotta pay Trey Hendrickson too to keep your guys because those are your core guys.
So Trey, I'm interested because once they get in that 31 and older range, you start. It's a debate for another time. Not a roaring reaction subject, but we might get into that in the off. Keep that in mind for one of our bye weeks. Listen, I went back through the roaring reactions, and when we have all three of us on here, I have not seen a unanimous decision yet on any of our game balls. And I'm not going to start now because I said 2.5 and he didn't get them. He got 2. I said 2.5, Trey. So if he'd have got 3, I'd give it to him. But nope, couldn't do it. I'm going to give my game ball to somebody who I also think has been playing very well over the last few weeks. And I was a little bit critical of earlier in the year. Seems to be running around a little faster, playing a little faster. And playing really good ball. I think Jermaine Pratt, 10 tackles, 3 assists, and he's been playing hella good defense. So I'm going to give Jermaine Pratt a little love here just because Trey didn't get my 2.5 that I asked for.
Also, shout out to Myles Murphy. Got the nice little coverage in the end zone and then put the seatbelt on him. Man,
that was hilarious.
That was awesome.
I've never seen anybody that big do the seatbelt thing.
No, bro. I ain't never seen no D-line in coverage like that. I mean, and again, Sam Hubbard also got an interception too now. Yeah. So
Sheldon Rankins got a sack.
Joseph Osai, he got a lot of pressure.
Joseph Osai destroyed Watson on that one. Destroyed him.
He hitting.
Yeah, I thought I felt like we got a lot of some of the guys seem to be coming of age, playing a little bit better on that defensive line with a couple years under their belt or a year under their belt. So yeah, not too mad about that. All right, listen, let's put a bow on this Cleveland Browns. Ugly win. We got the win. So away we go. Is this the Eagles week?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, the Squeagles.
I'll be in that game. I'll be in attendance to that game.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we got a couple home games here, Philadelphia and Vegas, before we have that Baltimore. That's a Thursday night game, and then we get a week and a half off. That'll be a good rest for those guys.
Man, seriously. I'm hoping. My hope is that, and this can actually be my parting shot, that the Bengals can find their way to get to 5-4 before that showdown in Baltimore on Thursday night. And then I'm watching very closely to this Baltimore-Tampa Bay game right now. It's a good game so far. But if Baltimore can lose a game sometime between now and then, man, that will be great to go into Baltimore, and then you come out of that stadium with the win on that time, and then we're both going to be 6-4 or whatnot, or whatever the records will be. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Tim, parting shot. What you got? Put a bow on this.
All right. Well, my food's getting cold. All I gotta say is hooday.
All right. You heard from Tim Lyons, straight from the horse's mouth. He's got a cold food and a cold heart. Listen, I appreciate you guys rocking with us every week. Please like, share, subscribe. I know we say it every week, multiple times, but it is literally the lifeblood of what we are doing here. So we appreciate you guys helping us out with that. It's the best way you can help us out and support us is by tuning in and hitting that thumbs up, hitting that share, telling people about us. Tell them, come on over, get your Bengals news here, Run Through the Jungle. We'll be live all Wednesday night again, 8:05 Eastern time-ish. So catch us on Run Through the Jungle there. This is the end of our Roaring Reactions. Thank you for checking us out. An ugly win is still a win, gentlemen. We're on to Philadelphia.